Man, I wish I was anywhere where any of you guys are.
Yep. Come on.
Where are you?
Yeah, where are you, Stewie?
Well, at the moment, I'm in my studio in Weehawken, New Jersey, but I live in the West Village in Manhattan, which has gotten pretty weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. John, you're a North Carolinian now, is that right?
Yeah, Raleigh.
There
But-
goes the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You need
There
to
goes,
bring-
there goes the Dago hood. But you know, I go back and forth to Jersey City quite a bit because I still mix a lot up there. In fact, Monday I saw Stuart. I did a 1-day run. I drove up, picked up a bunch of gear, and drove home on Monday. And I stopped with Stu. We picked up a couple of guitars, and we had a cigarette. And I was like, all right, gotta go. It was quite the trip. It was like 15 hours of driving total.
Come down here to mix. Here, I'm close. I'm close.
You know, I made great time. There was not a lot, you know, it was quiet. 7.5 hours each way was really good timing. So, yeah.
Well, but if you come down here and mix, we can hang out. We can play wiffle ball.
Interesting.
Saying, I got a board. I got tape machines. I got computers. I got all the stuff.
So, Dave, are you open?
Go ahead.
What's
Sorry.
your question?
I was going to ask David, is your studio open?
Sort of. Have been mixing like crazy quite a bit for Patterson and Jay for the past, through a few months, and we had our first session the other day, and here's how we're doing it. No one but the engineer is allowed in the control room.
It should always be like that anyway.
Yeah, that's how it should be, right? And
we're gonna have a hard time getting David to go back after this is over.
Put a lock on the door.
So we have 2 sets of monitors out in the studio now, and I put up some panels out there, so there's like a nice dead listening area. I created another break room in the front of the studio here that has like a water cooler and a table, and there's a picnic table outside, and an ample supply of spray disinfectant. And then anytime there's a different group of people in the studio, there has to be 72 hours of shutdown between.
Wow.
So we had Kishibashi last Sunday, 72 hours off. I'm in here today just kind of doing some stuff. And then in a few days, we have a 4-day run with somebody, and then we're going to block it off for 72 hours. But since the control room is only accessible by the engineers, we can use that because there's a back door here too. So you could come in and mix every day, but we've got people that are like we're in the middle of projects trying to finish. And so we just figured, I talked to Rolf at Blackbird and Simon Horrocks, who manages the Gold Diggers compound in LA, and Calby. And it's just like, what are you guys doing? And just got as many pieces, and we all compared notes and realized it's like, okay, this is how we try and do this. It's like, if you use a microphone, you label it and what day you used it. Everything, mics and headphones get labeled and get wiped down at the end of each session. And then nobody touches that stuff for 72 hours. Gear, the outboard gear knobs are wiped down with disinfectant. The console, if you touch my vintage console with a Lysol wrap, I'm going to come over to your house and touch you. So that just has to be like left alone.
Is that a promise?
Yeah. I know Raleigh. I can find you. So, so we're just being hyper careful with it, and we're going to see how this goes. But it's either shut down, hope we can make it through the summer, let people's projects just languish, or just try and find a way to live with this shit, It's because I think we're going to be living with it for a while.
And so so out in the live room, do you have gobos, or you're keeping people a little bit further apart?
Well, we have both. And if the engineer goes out there, it's like I have 2 sets of masks here. I have just the regular masks everybody wears around that are, when you come in here, if you don't have a mask and you need one to go in and out of any place, you got it. For the engineers, I have like the fancy, you can't get it and you can't give it. And if you walk out there to adjust a microphone, everybody has their own mask, but I've got extras. And if somebody comes in here to record and it's just them out there doing that, it's like, yeah, we're trying to keep them apart, but basically that's on you if you're going to come in here that you got to be responsible for yourself.
Yeah.
My responsibility is to keep, if you have a group of people and you're comfortable, and that's what, and let's face it, most people now, right now it's going to be just a few people at a time.
Right.
So, but for singing, I have thought about, man, I think I want to try and build some old school gobos with like glass in it or something to, I'm just going to come up with other ways to do this because I do want to keep people as safe as we can.
Yeah, right on.
We've had a weird one that I've been using my drummer's studio, and his wife, Jenny, great keyboard player. She's in the Decemberists, and where's Funk? Speaking of Decemberists. So they live together. They're married. So I was the one thing that was being introduced into the environment. And I do these live streams, but because they didn't have to worry about it, very early in the game, I could have a combo playing my stream where everyone's like, how the hell did you have to be careful with optics too, like everybody wants to, anybody recording now is going to want to film it because that's the only content that they can put out there, right? It's here I am tracking this thing, and people get mad if they think that you're not being safe. And I've just had this unique situation where I was able to like play my little show and have keyboards and drums because they didn't need to self-shelter. It's been this could go for a year, so it's cool you're figuring it out, Dave. Just don't put me in a glass box.
One really positive thing you just said about this is that maybe this pandemic is a thing that'll finally get the video cameras out of recording sessions.
Right.
Maybe. Actually, they're gonna have every mic's gonna have a camera on it by the time we're done with this thing.
Yeah,
we need content.
It's true.
Patterson's seen me pitch a fit about video caused work stoppages before. Just like I'm not making a TV show about making a record. I'm making a record.
Yep. Dave
but I keep saying to Dex, because Dex, my drummer, he was like, I don't want to be a video guy because it all like we're doing GoPro and then there's this new YOLO board and like all of this shit, and he's like, I don't want to do that. He goes, I make records. I don't do movies. Exactly what you said, except that everybody coming in is going to want that. So your upload speeds, on your cameras and all of these shit suddenly are important. Your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth connection. And I know it's driving him crazy, but just doing it as a stream for us, every day it takes like 3 hours before I go live with an acoustic guitar. It's ridiculous, but I don't think there's a way to get around it now being constantly filmed, right? It's the only content these bands have.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
I've noticed for me, we've had the video day 1 or 2 on like every other of the last 5 records, 6 records. You know what I mean? They plan it in, they come in, they set up while we're working. And then, everybody really, I was joking, but everybody really does want content. It's like a big thing. Stuart, you want to do an intro, even though we're already in?
Yeah. Hey, look, we got this great group of guys. Patterson, so great to see you. And Jerry and Jay, great to meet you. David, great to meet you in somewhat person. And here we are in this weird time. And it's so great. Patterson helped us put this great group of guys together. I almost feel like we should start jamming, but
man.
Yeah.
But,
I've got my guitar.
Of course you do.
So speaking of your guitar, you writing songs?
I wrote one this week, and the first week I started quarantine, I wrote a song that the first week I was home, I wrote all week. And because I'm supposed to be on tour all year. We have a brand new record that came out, just as this was all starting. And so my plan for this year was to basically be on the road all year, and then come home, try to be as good a dad as I can, and then leave again and go do that. And now I'm probably here for the whole year. Most likely there will be no shows this year. And we still have stuff on the books, but I'm very skeptical about them actually happening. So the first week I was home, I was like, it's like, I've got all this unexpected time at home. I'm going to be creative. I'm going to do all this stuff. And so I worked on like songs I'd been, struggling with for months and finished a couple things and wrote a song from scratch. And I was like all super productive. And then I hit the wall. And since then, it's been pretty much just, cooking and cleaning and being angry and depressed. And then, I've been working on doing these shows up here in my attic, my quarantine shows. And I really kind of threw myself into that. I couldn't just like say, oh, I'm going to play a few songs. It's been like, each one's been like thematic and very labor intensive, and which is probably good for me brain wise. But this week I actually I finished a song last night, I think, or it's close to finish. I mean, I may go back and still keep tweaking it, but it's getting there.
And so when can we see your shows? Is there like a certain time that we can let people know?
Yeah, I've been doing them every other Wednesday. So this next Wednesday will be the next one. And the theme of the last one I did was like through the years, like songs I've written about my extended family, about like particularly my mom's side of the family and the farm that I kind of grew up on out that belongs to that part of my family. And there's like 30 years worth of those songs. Basically, I compiled about a 2-hour show out of that with a lot of kind of storytelling and it was like a lot of narrative to it. And I did that. That was a really hard work. I put like a lot of work into it. But the one I have scheduled for next week I was supposed to be it's next Wednesday's the 24th birthday of the Drive-By Truckers. So I was going to do a show just to basically about the original Drive-By Trucker songs, the first batch of songs I wrote for this band in the 6 months leading up to our very first time actually becoming a band. And while I was working on putting together the band, I was like writing for it basically. And so I was going to do a show about that. But with everything that's been going on with the protests and all that, I've thought about maybe postponing that and doing more something that addresses what's going on right now and some of the more topical stuff. And I think we're gonna figure out some places to donate the money for it and stuff too. And so we're kind of in the process of figuring all of that out. But it'll be Wednesday on it's a site called Noon Chorus, and they host it's a platform site, and they do a really good job. The sound and the tech and everything's been pretty good for it, and so it's so far it's worked out okay with them.
And you do it at your place.
I do it right here in this room in my attic, and it's at 9:00 Eastern time, so it's 6:00 out here in Pacific time. Right. On Wednesday on Noon Chorus.
Great.
Yeah, I'm writing that down too. How you doing, Jay? What's going on down there?
I'm doing well. As well as can be at this time.
The new well.
Yeah, the new well. I actually did a show on the Noon Chorus site this past Friday for the first time, and that was a lot of fun.
Right.
It was a lot of it was something to sort of focus energy toward creative energy toward, and just did a kind of variety show.
It was a variety show.
Yeah. Well, I figured out you can kind of like put you can kind of switch to a different scene and put like videos in, and that was a whole other ball of wax. But that was a lot of fun. I'm doing that, and cooking, a lot of cooking, cleaning, and finished up a solo album with my friend Chris Gran, and just doing some remote recording with friends and other folks and stuff, and just trying to keep busy. So
can you watch archives of the Noon Chorus stuff, or is it just live and that's it?
I think it goes on for, I think we have a setup where it's like 2 days.
Yeah, 48 hours. But John, I can I can help you though. Because we do
Same
have it
here.
all archived. Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay, great. I would love to see. Yeah, definitely. I'd love to see a couple. I just know, like, I just get caught up in stuff here at the house and either whatever I'm doing, and then in the evenings, by the time I realize, oh, somebody did a show, me and Sharon are watching Killing Eve or something. You know what I mean? We're like so not like I can't wrap my head around the evening shows anymore. I miss them all. It's been weird. Just the family dynamic of focusing on that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
So you guys, you would have been out on the road, right? And
We would have been in Dublin last night, right?
Yep.
Oh
wow.
Yeah, Jerry was supposed to be out with us right now in Europe. We were doing, we made a record last year, the Truckers backing up Jerry. And he was going to do Europe with us and with us backing him up every night. So last night would have been Dublin and, was Leeds today or tomorrow? I don't know.
I'm going to start crying.
Think about it.
Yeah.
and so, but it was to promoting and playing the Unraveling.
Doing the Unraveling for us and then backing up Jerry doing the record we made with him, which is actually coming out. I guess it was originally going to come out in June, but now it's August?
August 21st, yeah.
Can I
Called
ask
The Beautiful Madness.
Can I ask you how the Unraveling, how that title came about? I mean, it's Christian, obviously,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
There's a crystal ball.
Yeah, no shit. There's a song there was a song we recorded for the album called The Unraveling, and the chorus is The Unraveling is Happening. And it's actually, it was supposed to be coming out a month or so ago as a single for Record Store Day. And so now it's going to come out, I guess, whenever the new Record Store Day is, it'll be coming out as a single. But yeah, I've been joking, we called the album The Unraveling, and then all this happened. So we're going to name our next album, Free Healthcare and Blowjobs. And maybe it'll come true. I don't know, but.
You realize free blowjobs aren't really free, right?
Well, I didn't say free blowjobs. I said free healthcare and blowjobs. Yeah, we know.
Yeah, there's a comma before the and.
Yeah.
The parentheses.
Parenthetically noted.
Yeah.
Yep.
and so the idea would be, you pretty much are resigned to the fact that the next amount of time is going to be doing kind of what we're doing now for a minute. And
yeah, resign is a strong word, but yeah, I'm not particularly optimistic about this actually ending very soon. And I mean, right now they're kind of rescheduling everything for moving it into 2021, and I'm just hoping that gets to happen. I don't know.
right.
And I don't know how long this can be sustained. I mean, none of us have really any other income. We don't have, it's not like we get checks for the record sales. It's not like that does not exist anymore in our world, and or never really did in our world. But what little did is gone now. So it's pretty much, if we're not playing live, so it's tough.
Have you guys done a box set?
The Truckers,
Yeah.
we did a live one. Yeah, we did a live box of we did like a 3-night thing at the Fillmore in San Francisco, and compiled like God, how many songs? A lot of songs.
36 on the record. I mean, on
Yeah.
the records, 5 final discs.
Dave, did you go out and record that with them?
Yes. I had been recording Drive-By Truckers shows off and on starting in about 2004. And then around 2006 or 7, really picked it up, including one where John set me up with Jim Flynn Reynolds to rent some gear in New York at
Webster.
Webster. Yeah.
Webster.
Yeah. And but anyway, so I've done it and I've done it all over the country. I've done it in all kinds of ways. I've done it with Pro Tools. I've done it with DA88s. And I am a man of extremely limited interests and skills. I'm not well-rounded, but I do know about recording live Drive-By Truckers performances. I have a lot of practice at this. And so we kept recording and then hit on the idea of doing this thing in at the Fillmore, which was 3 fantastic shows. And I rented some gear from a guy, and the guy we rented the gear from, just oddball, you start looking people up, had played guitar on one of the classic Steve Miller albums in the 70s. So of course he then got to be, like when we're like unloading shit at like 3 o'clock in the morning at the end of the 3-night run, he's really tired. He's got to deal with me asking him questions about recording those records. And then I came back here and mixed it all while I was in the midst of trying to recover from having shingles. So eternal credit to the band and management for putting up with me saying, it's like, if I work, I mean, it's by myself in here, but like if I do an 8-hour day, like I might have to go to sleep at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon the next day because I was so exhausted. So I just fiddled with it for like at least a month. And it was so awesome. It was so much fun to do it. And my favorite thing about mixing it is because of all the shows I was recorded, there was a missed word or line in one song. Patterson, do you remember this?
Kind of.
Okay. It's in Angels and Fuselage. There was something that got garbled or it's not right or you can't hear it. And it's just like, well, I'll just get it off another recording. And of course that you only played the song once at the Fillmore. And I said, well, when's the last time you played the song? And he said, well, like at Halloween show at the Georgia Theater a couple of years ago. And it's like, I recorded that show too. So I just got that line off that part of that song of a show from 2 years ago. And as we all know, if you're crafty enough, well, now everybody knows, but until now, so it was fun to work on it, but we had so much like years of practice of just doing this, or sometimes I would just go on the road to them for a few days or just like put gear and then fly up and meet them and then jump in the bus for a few days. So which is also really fun. So yeah, labor of love. It's great.
How did you guys meet each other?
Patterson moved to Athens in 1994 and was working sound at a local club and did sound for one of my bands. And
did sound for you solo, I think, first.
Oh yeah, it was solo. And then
free solo one night.
And then right after
Broom Room Annex, I believe.
Yeah, it was. I opened for Broom Room Annex. I played solo, and I know Kyle Spence was there. I remember him coming to that show. And we and then not too long after that, Tony Eubanks, who owned this bar, had the hi-hat had said, have you ever heard Patterson songs? I was like, no, man, he's a cool guy. Like we talk about music all the time. He says, you got to play it. So then I went to the next time, not too long after that, Patterson's equally sparsely attended solo show. We were both doing some sparsely attended performances at that time. And it was a really high quality crowd. And and the next thing you know, it was like he's doing sound and I'm hanging out there in the booth with them all the time. And I recorded a series of shows down there, and so we're hanging out together all the time. And then I built this place, and then he helped me hang drywall in here while we're debating things. Who do we hold responsible for burdening the world with the white suburban blues? I know that was one of our construction conversations one day. So, yeah, and then like 26 years later, here we are.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
It's a great run. I mean, that's
yeah.
Wow.
And this pandemic is not going to stop it. You're going to keep going.
Keep it going.
Patterson, I was going to mention that I was talking to Sharon, my lovely wife who manages Sunvolt, and I said to her the other day, what about Sunvolt face masks? Like, I think you guys should do DB, especially with your great album.
We've got them. We've got them. They say 6 feet away, motherfuckers. I think they say that on them or something like that. But yeah.
That's like the fucking, I mean, that's one way of like at least getting some merch going on.
No, I want one that's got the unraveling on it.
Yeah, that we've we're hawking anything we can just to try to keep the lights on and everything. So,
And I mean, it's not, it is what's going on now. I mean, obviously, right. Every artist, every band is kind of not, we transitioned from sales to like a live medium for artists. And now that's gone. Because really, right. Everybody, I mean, like the Dino guys were going out all the time. Everybody was going out all the time. Even older way legacy artists were going out now to, because that's where, that's where the bread is buttered. So it's just a crazy time. I will say I'm not confident, but I'm hoping, I got my fingers crossed that we get a vaccine before the end of the year.
Yeah.
And I feel like if there's a vaccine, people are starving to see entertainment.
Yeah, they are.
I think it's going to be like Boomtown, post-vaccine. I really feel like kids are going to come out, adults, I mean, you guys are, it's killing you guys not playing, but it's killing us hanging out with our families.
Right.
That.
You said that out loud.
Yeah.
He's probably watching.
Yeah.
She heard it.
Hi, Sharon.
Sharon. Everybody says hi. Oh, God. Yeah.
I mean, another thing with this, like the thing about the shows too, is that right now the whole live streaming thing is working great because everybody's buying in, which is great. People are buying in and doing this, and it's fun and it's cool, and we can be at home and we can watch this and we can be supportive. But there's also the issue for everybody that's a touring musician, which affects Jay and Patterson and Jerry more than me, is that if like tonight you play Kansas City and tomorrow you play Omaha and the night after that you play Denver, well, stream it. You just did Kansas City, Omaha, and Denver and Pittsburgh and every place else all at the same time. And yeah, I'm pro early vaccine. I have, and there's some things I think that, I truly believe we're going to come through this as better people because we're going to be more respectful, more aware of our health, more aware of other people's space. I'm hoping, but it's but yeah, I'm John. The 2020 vaccine hope is the most optimistic thing I've heard anybody say in a while.
I know.
I'm hoping.
I know.
And for all kinds of entertainment, it's like, I live here in the hotbed of college football, and it's are they really going to have like 90,000 people show up at a stadium together? I went downtown on Sunday for a demonstration. And it's funny, before this, I've gotten so used to just going out, putting on the mask and not being around any human beings that my thoughts before I went down there were, is there going to be like, is there a threat of like violence in Athens, which there was not a thing that happened here, the people were, at least while I was there, it was a peaceful thing. And, but it wasn't until I got down there that I realized, oh my God, I'm around a bunch of people right now. And, I thought it was important to go, but, but as soon as I got down there, I realized it's like, it was almost hard to concentrate because I was so freaked about. I was standing away from people, but being around other people for the first time like this in a long time. Then I got in my truck, got some hand sanitizer, went home, took off all my clothes, put them in the laundry, took a shower, and then just like scheduled a coronavirus test for tomorrow because, I feel okay, but I'm just kind of freaked about. Southern
Mariah tested positive.
It was there publicly is now she tested positive. One of
the who did?
Mariah Parker, who's a rapper, a local activist, one of our county commissioners. Yes, we have a rapper and an activist as one of our county commissioners. Wow. Awesome. She's great. She's a PhD linguistics student at UGA as well. Pretty good combination, and a great person, a great friend. And but yeah, she organized this demonstration, and then she announced today that she's tested positive. I appreciate her publicly saying this because there's just a bunch of people that were around her the other day to let people know that, yeah, here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing about the sporting events is, 90,000 people in a stadium yelling and screaming and rooting for their team equals hello COVID.
Right.
I mean, that's like you can't. That's not going to happen. It takes 20 people, and it's going to be a nightmare.
Well, and how much of that football graphic's going to get a vaccine, right? The whole pitch on that side is it's a conspiracy, and it's all about putting microchips in us. And I think there's a huge segment. It's the one place in the world, another time where the far left, all my anti-vax friends, maybe kids that had people that had autistic or Asperger's children, have always been very anti-vax, and now it's a right-wing talking point. It's meeting in the middle. 30% of this country isn't going to get the vaccine.
Right.
So even if they,
God forbid there was any way for them to track us, by the way.
Yeah.
Right.
I know.
Right?
While they're typing, I don't want to be tracked.
Yeah, exactly. Like that. So
absolutely.
It's a thing about like just not really. It's like common sense. I mean, you're worried about a vaccine, but everybody has one of these in their fucking bag. Of course, they're going to track you with this easily. It's like the common sense thing. What happened? Like, when did that not become a thing?
I think that I just read a really interesting article about conspiracy and how people latch on to stuff because it's something that they can control. They feel like they can somehow have some control of the narrative. I have this one cousin, super beautiful guy, and blowing me up all day long. It's like between 5G and the vaccine and Bill Gates and I, it's like people, they want something to hang on to. It's just like 9/11. You watch the towers go down there. There's got to be a reason that, secret behind what I'm looking at. And it's just, I think, human nature. But I think the vaccine thing, we're going to have a really hard time giving it to people because they don't understand that they're being tracked. It's a crazy thing.
But I mean, there's like so many diseases.
Test it on me right now. Give it to me.
I'll take two.
I'll take two. I'll take a double. We were watching a movie last night and there was a scene and they went to a bar and they ordered a drink and I was just like swooning. It's like, bartender, it's a bartender.
I pine for our local, which even Sharon, she doesn't like the place, but I really dig it. And every time we drive by, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Speaking of conspiracy, I think they came and got Jerry. I think he hit too close to the truth. He's gone. They carried him off. He's out of here.
That's not him.
They've had my house surrounded for the past.
They replaced him with a
2
replica.
weeks.
That's I can't believe they were able to insert that microchip in your brain, Jerry.
So
It seems like you were just
quick.
gone in a couple minutes.
They told me it was an opiate release. I said I just hit the button. It was be like a morphine drip, in my cerebral cortex. I'm like, yeah, put it in. That's amazing.
Hell yeah.
I keep hitting it. It's not working. I'm like,
So with Oregon having such a low count, excuse me, are people out and about?
yeah, I mean, I'm so here at our house, I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. And I was going to say, speaking of the touring thing, I think one of the hardest things when it opened back up is this is the first time in my life I've ever been home like this. My wife's a 5th grade teacher. She goes down at 8 in the morning to teach. I have breakfast, exercise with the kids, and then getting them in school. And, of all the horrors, I look at it as a gift from God to have this time with my family, like this unadulterated time for months. And we keep telling our children, like, this has never happened, where mommy and daddy are home with their children like this for months. And now we may all kill each other, but it's this remarkable moment. It's going to be hard to go back on tour. In my life, since I was a little boy, I haven't been home like this, And
Patterson's ready to roll.
But at the same time, I go to Whole Foods every day or every other day or wherever my groceries are. I'm at the nursery. I'm at, it's been a very different thing as opposed to talking to friends in the 11th arrondissement or whatever who can't walk their dog, and it's so we've had considerably more freedom here in Portland. It's been kind of COVID light, and
But that,
I don't know. I could easily come back and bite us in the ass. This thing moves south to Sao Paulo and Melbourne and Johannesburg for the summer. It comes back in October. It's gonna.
Right.
Yeah,
we're not sure our kids are gonna go back to school.
the
Same.
weird thing is that the country is everywhere is experiencing it so differently. It, and I could certainly say that for myself because I speak, we do these things every Thursday. People are all over the place. We did one with our buddy Eric Bazilian, who was in Sweden, and everyone is, and he was like, he was just out at a bar when, but everyone is really kind of, and I can only say that because I feel like, I'm fine, but I'm living in this really different world,
Right.
Everything in my neighborhood is boarded up. It went from being closed and like, wow, and everyone wearing masks to the whole fucking neighborhood is boarded
Right.
entirely. Every store, every restaurant. And that's just fear. People are living.
And that was after you had a bunch of windows broken, right? You had a night where your neighborhood got hit pretty bad, right?
Well, now we're on a curfew. So, and that's another bizarre thing. It's like the first time in my life, I'm a New Yorker, where at 8:00 at night, it's tranquil.
Right.
There's no one out. Even the sound of the city is kind of like beautiful. It's as close as I'm going to get to nature. I can actually hear, and to Jerry's point, it's like, try to take something good from it if that's at all possible. But it's just, I just really think that everyone in the country is experiencing this different, and it's hard to get a united kind of vibe about it because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just earned my master's degree in reorganizing my fridge. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
It took weeks.
Yeah.
I did the same with my t-shirts. They're all white and black ones, and my wife is so excited. We have a lot of house cleaning days here. I think it's the happiest I've ever seen her in her life. Today it's the bathrooms.
So before we went live, we were talking about like the Patterson. You were saying you got like half an album in the can, and you're thinking about how to maybe in the fall get back to work, at least recording. And
Right.
so you would drive down to Athens. Is that what you would do? And everyone would just kind of meet there and.
I'll walk if necessary, but yeah, I mean, probably drive. I don't know. It's weird because I've always been kind of religiously not a germaphobe, like to a fault. Like I've spent my whole life basically doing stuff that people consider, kind of some degree of dangerous or crazy. And so I've always been kind of the opposite. Like everything about this whole thing just is wrong for the way I'm wired. But with that said, I'll say, the last 2 or 3 flights I took before I ended up locked here kind of freaked me out a little bit, because it's a little weird. Airports are weird. And so I don't know. I mean, I have a car that'll get me there. I'll drive.
And everyone in the band, do you think would be game for it?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. Cooley. You think Cooley's game?
Probably.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we want to take. I mean, we'd have to figure out a protocol for it. Where maybe we all get tested, and then are like isolated apart for long enough to get our thing back. I mean, we definitely have to be like a protocol for it, but it seems like it should be doable, especially by a couple more months from now. Because I know getting tested has become much easier now than it was, 2 months ago. So I'm hoping that we can kind of move in that direction. I mean, obviously, nobody wants to infect anybody else. So we got to figure out ways to do it safely, but it seems like there ought to be a way to be able to do it where we can at least all be together in a room and play and be okay.
Do you, when you guys plan a record, you plan a record and then go write songs, or do you write the songs and go, okay, now I'm ready to make a record?
Some kind of middle ground. It's you know, I almost always write a song in the home stretch of, probably like under the wire as we're finishing the record. There's that missing piece that I write, or occasionally someone else writes it, but there's almost always the last minute addition song. And although we didn't this last time, what did we, David? I can't remember this on the last one, but
no, it was the opposite, where we went to Memphis to make the record and then realized we had a couple of things from the demo phase before that we said, those are just better, man. Those are just like about as in the moment as it gets, and kept those. But
right.
Yeah.
We're in Memphis.
Sam Phillips.
Oh, wow.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. Fun.
Is that the first time you guys have been there?
First time.
Great.
We were there for a week, and was it 7 days or 8 days? I think 7 days. And we cut like 18 songs, I believe. We cut a lot. We had, it was super productive and really fun. And so and so for a while, the hardest part of making that last record was figuring out what the record was, because it was this kind of long, sprawling, hour plus running time thing. And we realized that it didn't need to be that, but we couldn't quite figure out how to cut it or what. There were songs that were like some of my favorite stuff that didn't seem to fit with some other songs. So we ended up basically taking the political songs and making that the Unraveling. And then there's this half another album that that will be that will be part of the follow-up, I guess.
And what did the material lead you to Sam Phillips? Was it like, oh, I got these batch, I think we should do it there? Like, why didn't you do it at Dave's place?
We'd always wanted to make a record in Memphis. We were planning on making American Band in Memphis, the last record. And then at the last minute, due to like logistical reasons, we ended up cutting it in Nashville at a Sound Emporium. And so just because the tour ended there, we were already all there. It just made sense. And so it's like, well, let's do that Memphis record we've always talked about. And Matt Ross Spang, who engineered American Band, was running the studio, or one of the rooms at Sam Phillips. And so it just kind of all fell together and made sense. We wanted to work with him again. And he had things going on there for it. And just, I don't know, it just kind of all fell together. And then when we got there, it was more magical than I anticipated. I think our band really vibed well with that room. It was a pretty special experience, especially with the echo chambers. Sam was a mad scientist about echo chambers. And so when he built that studio, he built 3 different echo chambers of various sizes into the actual building. And they had restored all of those. So we were like running everything through all those echo chamber rooms, and I got like obsessed with the way it was sounding.
Ooh. It was great because the door to the one huge chamber was like, wasn't it at the end of the hall?
Into the hall.
And so if you're hanging there's like a little lounge, and the door was shut to the studio, you'd hear like everything coming through just this like beautiful background, echoing through. It was pretty great. Yeah.
And the chamber, they like concrete or metal or wood, or
they're framed out, and then they're old enough that it's probably still plaster rather than like drywall. And then the interior are finished with some kind of like hard lacquer, some sort. And there's a speaker and a single microphone in the middle. And it's like the echo chamber at Sound Emporium was awesome. We recorded that one too. And I mean, they're all great, but that echo chamber at Phillips in Memphis It's special, man. It's unlike any other one I've ever heard before. It's so great. And so it's just like, we're just running everything through it.
You're just running everything through it, like everything?
Not literally tracking everything through it, but we are tracking and running mixes and then running stems of things just so that we would have recordings of that chamber.
Wow.
To use as part of our to capture the sound of the studio, because it's like it is really part of the sound of the place.
Right.
And there's such a great combination. The room's built in about 1960, and most of the studios I used to go in with my parents when I was a kid were all these rooms that Atlanta didn't probably have a recording industry until Bob Richardson built Master Sound in '58, which is about the same time that Sam built Philips. And so there's all these studios, when Atlanta had big studios, it was all these places that were built between 1958 and about 1965. So going in the place right away for me was like, oh man, this is just like when I was a kid. It's like, this is what a studio is. And it's got some, kind of muted color cloth panels. And it's, John, I feel like I've just conjured up a picture of home for you in describing these places because they're so amazing at that time period. And then, but the combination of the huge kind of dead controlled room and this explosive chamber. I mean, the sound of that chamber, all I can say is it sounds like, I always imagine like baby Angel Olsen being delivered in an echo chamber like that somewhere. It's just like the room just exudes emotion. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it does. And so many records that have a lot of reverb, particularly modern records that have a lot of reverb, sometimes the thrust gets lost and it's all this wash, and that's kind of a pet peeve to me. And the sounds we were able to get there were like, it was like the best of both worlds. It's like it had that cut, like a good dry take, but it also had that just, it was really, it was really special, really cool.
Yeah, there's a certain depth, to that stuff that you really, it's not simulated depth. It's really depth and you feel it. It's, man, there's nothing. Yeah. That just makes me fucking smile.
Yeah.
Also the concept of like discrete mono, like a guitar is on the right and you're not just throwing it into a verb that's washing, really like keeping it discrete with the instrument in a chamber is really cool. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know the answer to this question. It's a leading question, but have you guys ever recorded in Muscle Shoals?
Yeah, we've done 2 records. Patterson, of course, tons of experience, but we've done 2 records together.
At Fame or?
Fame.
At Fame, yeah.
And what was that like? I mean, it's probably a loaded question for Patterson.
Well, Patterson and I can both speak to this. We did 2 records. We did Drive-By Truckers, Dirty South there, which we came back to Athens and John mixed. And then we did Betty LaVette, Scene of the Crime there. I brought back here and mixed, and to just discuss the emotional turmoil of making that record, we would have to do your show like 5 times to deal with that.
I think Patterson talked about Betty LaVette on the Gear Club.
The Dirty South, we went down there, and I was so excited to go to Fame. We were back in the B room, and the vibe of the room is amazing, and the vibe of the place is amazing.
What's the B room?
It's just the B room was, it's maybe the square footage is probably as big as the A room, but the layouts, it's different. It seems kind of wider and some ISO booths off to the side, and not as much. It seems like it's primarily at that time being used for maybe cutting demo, like song publishing demos or something, because there wasn't a whole lot in the way of gear in there. And the stuff at that time in that room was it wasn't the greatest board and it wasn't the greatest shape, and it was actually a lot of work to make it work. But I'm so glad we did it because the room sounded so great, and it was so much fun going down there and doing it. And to their eternal credit, they accommodated me by getting 2-inch 16-track heads for their tape machine because they're 24, and I love the sound of 16. It's a good sound.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I have 5 2-inch machines here, 2 3MM79s and 3 Otari MTR90s. One of each of those are like a parts car. You know, I'm going to be like the guy with like a Pastor of Volvo 240s that I can go out and grab like a real supply motor, because nobody makes this shit anymore, you know? So, so we went out there and did that.
An inch of analog tracking ability.
And then we went back for the Betty record, but the Betty record was much better technical setup because they got a Neve in the A room, and the A room is the A room. You know, it's the famous room. It's where they cut When a Man Loves a Woman. And so going in there and like with Spooner talking about working in there, and then Patterson's dad and Kelvin Holly and all these great people played on it, and Roger Hawkins and Jimmy stopped by and set their head in the control room. And I mean, to be sitting, for me as an engineer, to be sitting in the control room, working, listening to a playback, and to have Jimmy Johnson stick his head in there and then real quietly say to me, kind of look at me and say, "That sounds great," was just like, all right, I feel good. But like, we brought a ton of gear down, and so we were better prepared for it. But both rooms, amazing. They're like really cool to work in.
So, you know, one of the things, the records you guys make, the guitar sounds are always awesome. And do you have like a go-to standard thing, or do you evolve, or do you have your same guitars? Like first question, what kind of amps do you guys use?
I mean, I have an old 1972 deluxe reverb, and then I've got one of those old Fender reverb tanks. It's a reissue. It's not an original, but it's a reissue of probably the 60s era, because I know they do a 50s and a 60s era one. I've got like I've got actually one of each, but the one I use most of the time is the 60s one. I keep it pretty simple. You know, I kind of have my sound and kind of do my thing. The other guitar players are way more experimental. Right, Jay?
It's pretty straightforward. You know, I have an amp made by a friend of ours, Steve Hunter, here in Athens, called Steve Amps. It's and it's sort of a JTM 45 AC30-ish kind of thing. And you know.
And Dave, you just throw a couple of mics on it and let these guys do their thing?
You're giving me far too much credit. My thing with, I'm a little persnickety about phase.
Yeah.
And so there is no reason to use 2 mics when one will do. And so it's so simple. I'm pretty much like 1 mic in front of an amp, 1 mic pre, no EQ, no compression. If I need it to sound different, I can change the strings, change the tone on the amp, change the mic, move the mic, change the pre,
fire the guitar.
How hard I'm hitting the tape machine. I mean, there's a lot of options before I need to introduce some sort of phase shift with additional microphones or an equalizer. So I tend to favor ribbon mics, and I've got about 3 or 4 that I kind of toggle around with. I mean, I love those Royer 121s. Those things are so, it's just cheating. And I have mic pre's. I mean, I'm pretty heavy on the Neve. I have a couple of super old 1272s that I modded to like cut the impedance on, which is really nice with ribbon mics. I was way on the Coles for a while with guitars, but now I kind of stick my Coles out with drums more because the thrust off the bottom end is so nice. And and there's tons of Drive-By Truckers records that have old Beyer 160s and 260s. You know, I mean, I feel like what I'm saying is like the Vanilla Cone and the Baskin Robbins of recording, which is like, yeah, ribbon mic, you know, a little ways off the mic, run it through a cool mic pre and get the guy. And I mean, they make the shit sound. They write good songs with cool guitar sounds and good parts. My job's easy.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, but I mean, the part of the battle is just knowing that it works. It's like not overthinking it. Fantastic. I love those 160s. I wish I had a pair of those.
Oh, well, you got to come down here, John. We got those too. I'm not far away.
Hey, so what about, are all the records recorded to analog first, even like the ones in Memphis and stuff, or how does that work?
The ones in Memphis and Nashville were done to 2-inch, shamefully 24 track. Kidding, their machine sound. They have both of them have Studer 827s, which I think are better than the 820s because that auto align thing on those 820s is it's a computer. I was on somebody's it's like a computer and like a boat engine. It's like a bad thing, but so those were both 24 track Studer 827s at 15, and then since we're up there and then bounced and we're going to be doing overdubs and stuff up there, those were transferred into Pro Tools, brought down here, and then mixed back through the gear. I mean, frankly, the next time I mix something in the box, which I know that people do amazing stuff, will be the first time I've ever done it because I like the tactile sensation. Yeah. And here at like Cro-Mag Central, I need it nice and simple. And then the other ones typically have been track to the 2-inch 16 tracks here, and even the one we did at Mitch Easter's, that was 2-inch 16. Muscle Shoals, I did 16 there, and then put into Pro Tools. But there are records that we do. English Oceans was 100% 2-inch. It was a 100% 3M M79 when that thing was really working right, which means you can punch in, but you are not punching out. And so, say what?
We used to do the thing at the record plant, the Islands, because we had the MM1200s, and the same thing. You had to punch out on dead air.
Yeah.
But what we do is we put a leader at the punch out.
Yeah. Put an island. Yeah, of course.
And you just hit stop, and it's like perfect. But I mean, that takes an extra 15 minutes to do just one of like 20 bass punches.
I had to do that. I've had to do that before. One time I was working out at Bosstown in Atlanta, which is now the Outcast place, Stankonia. Bobby Brown owned it at the time, and they had an 820 that wouldn't punch out. It can align itself, but it wouldn't punch out, or something that was broken. And so it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's exactly what I did. It's like, all right, chop, put it in, and put it back together.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And just a quick question. Do you guys do pre-production, or do you just do a shit ton of shows and play the songs? Or like
the last album, we did a tour the summer of 2018. We did like a tour playing Big Room, opening for Tedeschi Trucks Band. And so we basically used sound check as pre-production for the record. We worked up the majority of the songs for that record during sound checks for that tour. And if we had a song good enough, we'd pull it out and try it out in front of the audience in those great big rooms, which was kind of cool and a little different way of approaching it. But there's always a certain amount of it that's just we work up in the studio too. I'd say any given record, at least a third of it gets worked up in the actual studio, maybe even more on the last record. Wouldn't you agree, David?
Yes. And I also want to make the point that one of the beautiful things about making Drive-By Truckers records is that basically the number one rule is that there are no rules. And so it's like we're open. That's one of the reasons I think our relationship has worked for so long, is that we're open to we're pretty much open to whatever. And it's that any idea trying it's just like, let's try whatever, which includes, let's go to Mitch Easter's. Let's get John to mix a couple of records. Let's get Matt Rossbang. I mean, we had talked about the possibility of getting somebody else to handle tracking engineering with my involvement, because Patterson pointed out it was healthy for me to be able to walk out in the studio and like be more involved in the creative process out there. And then we discovered we love our mutual friend Tracy Thomas turned me on to Matt, and then we love working together. So we brought him down here to help mix this last one too. And we'll come back. But even since we started going other places and doing things with other people, then we've had other times where we've all holed up back here, and it's like we're doing it just like we used to now, and we're going to write it in the studio. Our Patterson's got songs, and we're going to work out what we've got, or it's all fair game, which is a beautiful thing to me.
Yeah.
You don't hear of a lot of band producer relationships that these days that
it's true. Absolutely.
Kind of longevity and beauty to them and evolution.
David and I've been working together for over 20 years. The very first Trucker record was the very, very first Trucker session was done by a guy named Andy Baker at his house. And then, which Andy's now in Taiwan, being very successful there. But he had a little studio out of his house, and then he partnered with David and another Andy Lemaster, and they started Chase Park in the very early days of the Truckers. And I raised the money to, or not the money, I helped hang drywall and help with the build out of the studio in exchange for enough studio time to record the first Trucker record, Gangsta Billy, which the two Andys produced together. And then Andy Lemaster mixed our second record. And then our third album, which was a live album, we hired David to mix it. And that was in 2000. And that was Alabama Ass Whoopin'. And then we got him to mix Southern Rock Opera the next year. But in the course of everything he had to do to complete that record, he ended up being a co-producer on it. And as we were finishing that project, which was kind of a nightmare project to make, as we were finishing, David took me aside. It's like, I would love to make a record with you guys where you just come in the studio and let's just make a record. Because everything before that was mobile recording with DA. We did Pizza Deliverance in my living room, and Alabama Ass Whoopin' recorded in various clubs in Athens and Atlanta. And Gangsta Billy was in the studio, but we did it in 2 days, and so it's like, let's make a record. Let's just actually do a record. So that was Decoration Day. And from then on, that's been the relationship. It's been beautiful, it's been beautiful. And at the same time, having the openness to where it's like, let's get John and Yellow to come in and mix this,
What kind of crazy fucking idea was that?
It was a great idea.
That was my idea because John had mixed some Sunvolt tracks that Jay Farrar and I had made this record in their practice space on ADATs. And Jay, was crafty and didn't want to, and first wouldn't tell anybody, me or anybody in the band, that he was making a record. Oh, we're just cutting some demos and why don't you bring
terrible Jay Farrar imitation.
I love it. I know it's awful. All my impersonations are terrible, but they feel good to me. So we went to, Jay and Sharon knew what he's doing. And then they kept calling me to come out there and go to this practice space. And after 3 or 4 times, it's like, what are we doing? It's like, well, we're making a record. Right. Like, we should probably get a little better gear. So we made this record, and then we went to Mitch Easter's to mix it. And then the label decided that we should get like a hot shot hit record mixer to mix some singles. And they got they first tried this with a well-known name brand hotshot rock and roll record producer, and Jay wasn't that into it. And then we got John to mix a few tracks, and we're just like, these are pretty awesome. And John, is that how you and Sharon met?
Yeah.
I love that.
Really?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the third Sunvolt record, I guess it was Wide Swing Tremolo maybe, but I mixed like 4 songs or 5 songs on that record. And then I dealt with her a bunch, and then he asked me to do the solo record, Sebastopol. And
love that record.
Funny story, don't tell anybody. Okay. So she's managing Jay. I'm down in St. Louis doing Sebastopol. It's Easter weekend. I, talk to Jay's manager, Sharon. I'm like, hey, I really want to go home, see my family for Easter. It's a really big holiday for us. She's like, who the fuck is this guy? Fuck this guy. This is bullshit, right? I'm not going to fly him back and forth. I get them to do that to me. I fly into LaGuardia. I go to a Met doubleheader. I then spend the day in Brooklyn, and then I fly back like Monday morning. And I never told her until we were married for like 4 years. And she was like, you're a fucking asshole.
Hey, we got a new friend here.
I was just saying,
Hey.
Kyle,
How goes it? Sorry I'm late. I've been out on a wild treasure hunt the last 3 or 4 days.
Tell us about it.
Kyle Craft.
Hello.
Hey.
I didn't find it, the treasure. Have any of y'all heard about this Forrest Fenn situation?
No.
This like antiques dealer in Santa Fe, New Mexico, hid this treasure somewhere in the Rocky Mountains and wrote this poem that supposedly leads you right to it. And it didn't lead me right to it, but I got a nice sunburn, and looks like I own a cat because I've been digging in geysers and stuff.
Wow.
But yeah, that's
Where are you now?
What is it?
Where are you now?
I got into Portland about 4:30 a.m. last night, and then I just drove to Seaside, Oregon. So I'm on the coast with my wife and a couple of friends.
Gotcha.
Nice. Hey, so guys, it's great to meet everyone, but I got a curfew I got to deal with. So you guys can hang, but I'm going to have to sign off because I got to get my ass back into town.
Right.
But thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Really great. And Patterson, you are the man.
Yay.
And by the way, I heard your NPR thing. It was like last month or something. It was really special.
Oh, thank you.
It was really special and just really beautifully done, and all the great things you were talking about were.
Well, thank you. When this is all over, let's get together in person. I'd love to see you again.
Fuck yeah. And Jerry, Jay, Dave, Kyle, great to meet you. Everybody.
Yeah,
Drive safe, buddy.
agree.
Yeah. Okay. Johnny, stay beautiful, will you? Okay. Keep these guys in line because I think it's going to break open.
And by the way, I think Jerry's going to have to cut out too because he's got a show today. But why don't you plug your show before you go?
It's such a weird day to do a show, right? So many people are going dark. But I have a show called The Happy Book, and it's at 6 o'clock. JerryJoseph.com/live.
Yeah.
Hey, but I do have to get over to this rehearsal. Mostly it's all about this tech. It's a freaking nightmare figuring out GoPros into YOLO boards into I'm gonna die.
I'll be looking out for you Wednesday at 9 o'clock.
Jerry, before you go, talk to us about the record. Really quick. We didn't really talk about it at all. But give us like give us a little thing.
That's I've known Patterson a long time. And for a long time. Like
first time I ever came to Portland was the first 2 times I ever came to Portland was for the Truckers to open for Jerry Joseph out here. So that's how far back we go. That was 20 years ago.
Wow. And we sort of did this dance for all these years, about working together. And then Patterson moved here. We both have similar age children, and we started hanging out. We also have a fondness for pho, the Vietnamese soup. So we started meeting, and it led to Patterson producing my record, which was, I was so excited. So we went down to Mississippi. We recorded it with Jay and Bobby, Matt, and Brad. And
where did you record in Mississippi?
We recorded at Dialback, Bobby Matt's studio.
Oh, where's that,
Matt?
Yes, Matt.
Well,
Patton.
it's in the middle of fucking nowhere, Kyle.
Water Valley, to be specific.
Water Valley. Yeah,
Like
Water
20
Valley. Mississippi. It's about
20
20 miles
minutes.
south of Oxford.
Yeah.
Okay. I was
I'll
born
tell
in
you what doesn't
Mississippi.
matter in that town.
You have
But
you go out and eat Sunday dinner with Jerry Joseph in Water Valley, Mississippi. I just got to say, but that's a whole nother story.
that's a whole nother story. Fortunately, I
Yeah.
didn't figure out who I was till I was leaving town. And so, but from the beginning, as I was writing songs, I was sending them to Patterson, and I've always really trusted him as an artist. So it's the most I've conceded with a producer, like this verse sucks or this thing, and Patterson had this vision, and, I've worked with Barbie. I mean, I've worked with lots of people. But he had far more vision for the record than I did. And it comes out in August. It was going to come out last week, I think, right? We were doing this massive European tour, and there's a difference, I think, for us. Right now we have a captive audience. We can release singles and do this thing. And I do this show at 6:00 on Thursdays. And it's a weird world. It's not something that I'm really comfortable with. I don't even like porn. I don't like this thing of screens. To me is I find it difficult. I travel internationally a lot, and I don't like FaceTiming my kids from Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever I am. And so now it's this whole thing relating to this camera and trying to push a record, and it's called The Beautiful Madness. And I'm Jerry Joseph. It's The Beautiful Madness of Jerry Joseph.
And then
my mom.
Did you do the whole thing there, or did you mix it somewhere else, or like?
We mixed back here in Portland. I can never remember, what is that called? The Halfling Studio?
Yeah.
Patterson.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But there's another name. There's a whole complex there, and I get really confused.
Yeah, it's
Chris
the
Funk's
Sin
place.
Bin is the name of the whole place. The Sin Bin.
Yeah.
And then Halfling
Crazy.
is the studio that
Yeah.
Chris Funk and Adam Lee work out of.
Gotcha. So Patterson, did you mix it?
Adam Lee mixed it here.
Oh, sorry.
And, and he's great mixer and a great guy, great hang. And we spent about 10 days mixing it, something like that.
Yeah.
A couple weeks, right about a year ago, the end of May last year. And but we ended up having Cooley wasn't there for the actual tracking sessions, but he ended up playing on a couple of songs, and Jason Isbell played on a song too.
Oh.
And then a viola player here in town named Colleen King, who also
Kylie.
played on the last Trucker record, played on it too. And it's one of the things I'm proudest of in my life that I've ever done is Jerry's record. I'm really proud to be a part of it. And and Greg Calby ended up mastering it, and who we met thanks to John. I'm just thrilled it's finally going to come out, because it seems like it's been this epic battle to try to get the thing out. And just when we finally got all the wheels turning and everything for it to finally have a release date, this all happened, and so it's been kind of an epic journey. But the actual making of it was really fun, the tracking and all that. And Jerry, I'm going to embarrass him for a minute, but he's one of my favorite songwriters in the world. And I've been a fan of his songs and him as an artist for years and years. And so I secretly wanted to produce him for about 20 years, but I knew that it would only work if he asked me. So I just had to be patient.
Your patience worked out. So wait, the show tonight, are you doing it from your house or from a stage or from a?
I do it from, that's what I was talking about in the beginning. My drummer, Steve Dreeses, and his wife, Jenny Conley, they have a beautiful studio now that they've built out in their basement. So
the Panther.
I've been fortunate to be able to go use this studio, because like I said, since they're married, some of the health issues weren't quite as pressing as to try to get a band of people into a different studio. But we're doing it all to the cameras. It's not even going through any outboard gear. It's this new GoPro, and then it's a freaking nightmare. And then you got to check upload speeds and download speeds and make sure that the whole thing's working to the Restream platform that I've learned more about upload, download speeds than I ever thought I'd care about.
That shit sucks.
I got those COVID technology video blues.
Absolutely. Or what was it? What was the one I just saw right before this started? It said protest rioting season. I've still got my COVID decorations up.
God.
Jeez.
I'm actually releasing a song tomorrow that Adam Lee mixed a couple days ago. It's like a protest song that I wrote a while back that very much fits what's going on right now with everything. I'm always kind of hesitant to release protest songs, you know.
You write really good ones.
Thank you. This one I personally think is the best one that I've ever written in that vein of songs. But yeah, so I'm gonna release it on Bandcamp, and there's a fundraiser organization here in Oregon called Black Resilience Fund that I'm gonna put all the money towards, except for that 15% that Bandcamp keeps. But yeah, that'll be coming out tomorrow. Awesome. It's called Donnie's American Dream.
Say that again?
It's called Donnie's American Dream.
Oh, sounds like the shittiest Ben & Jerry's ice cream flavor ever.
Well, no, the first Ben & Jerry's was going to do one for me. It was Jerry Joseph Ben & Jerry's, and they test drove it with the kids. It was black licorice ice cream with nuts and bolts and cigarette butts in it, and all the children cried. Put it out.
Which might be the name of the next Jerry Joseph album.
All the children cried.
All the children cried. Hey, I really do have to go to this rehearsal, you guys. Thank you so very much for having me.
Love you, Jerry.
Jerry. Love you, man.
It was lovely to see everybody.
You too,
All right, man. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I look forward to hearing the record. So Kyle, you jumped in a little late, so let's catch up. What's going on? Like, what's going on with you? Where, what have you been doing?
I just finished up right before COVID started. I finished up this record that I'd been wanting to record. And I just did it in my basement. My studio kind of functions like almost like the Millennium Falcon or something. Like it works when it works, and then something will shit out on me, and then the other thing, and so I use what works when it works. But I just finished that a few weeks back. I still have to mix it. I'm pretty stoked on it though. And then when COVID hit, it was like, okay, well, cool. I've already been in my basement for 2 months, so I might as well do something else, And so I recorded this Graham Parsons cover album, which I'll be getting that hopefully out here in the next month. And no plans for when I intend on releasing my actual record. But yeah, I really want to get this. I got a Yamaha PM1000 for $1,000 and not too long ago, and so I really want to get that thing up and running.
What is that? Is that like a little a tape machine or?
No, it's a console. It's supposed to is like a hidden gem as far as boards go. I think they like kind of based it off of an Eve board, and the preamps are supposedly really good, especially for, you can't find them for $1,000, but there was one in Sacramento, and I got it home and opened it up, and it looked like half of the stuff in there was exploding. So I've got to get it fixed. It kind of works. I tracked all the drums through it, but it only has 4 buses, so I'm going to try and get some direct outs on each channel, but I think there's 16 channels. But the 4 buses have their own and each one has their individual hum or hiss. So you have to kind of
like that personality. That's right.
Yeah. And so the whole time I had to kind of keep the buses really down, way far down, and crank, the actual channels to get a good signal. But I only ended up tracking the drums through it. But it sounds good. Best drum sound I've had ever, as far as me recording myself.
And did you know Patterson before he moved to Portland, or like you guys go
Patterson,
way back?
where did we meet, man? Like I can't remember the day we.
I do. I can tell you. We met on 4th of July, and I moved to town on July 1st, 2015, and Chris Funk, who, by the way, texted me that he got caught up at work and wasn't able to join us. He was originally supposed to join us for this conversation, but Chris Funk and I met before I moved here and had become kind of fast, immediate friends.
I remember now.
When I hit town, Funk invited me to a 4th of July party at some friends of his, and Kyle was there, and he had already told me about Kyle. He'd been like, "Yo, you got to meet this guy. You're gonna love him. You're gonna love his music, and y'all are gonna really hit it off." And we did, and been friends ever since.
I remember that.
He toured with us.
I remember why I don't remember. Because I got there, and I remember getting there, and for a while there, I hadn't smoked weed in a long time. And for some reason that day,
And into me.
I was like, yeah, sure, I'll smoke some pot. I hit it probably 2 or 3 times more than I should have. And there was so many children running around, and I was so high, and I was just like, oh God, like, Patterson, nice to meet you. Yeah. And then I remember like having to like get out of there. Wasn't there a goat at that party, or was I that high?
It was Portland. Of course there was a goat at the party.
Yeah. Like there's a goat in the backyard. Shit. I don't know, man. But I remember now, sort of.
Who doesn't bring their goat to the party? I mean, come on. I can imagine you like standing around there going, "Who are all these little people?"
Yeah, who are all these little people? Mine is a goat. Yeah, I remember now. And then, I like me and my band did a couple tours with Drive-By Truckers.
Yeah.
And so we all got to hang out quite a bit. Speaking of, Jay, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Kyle?
Good. I mean, all right.
And yeah, as good as can be.
Didn't find my damn treasure, but whatever.
Right.
Yeah, so wait, I'm confused though. Did you read about this? Is like an urban legend, or how did what something made you,
Well, I heard about it about a year and a half ago, and then I started reading into it, and there's this poem, that he wrote, and this guy got diagnosed with cancer, and he's this like wealthy guy that's an antique dealer, and so he made this treasure chest that has about in between $1 and $5 million worth of like gold and ancient jewels and stuff in it, and it's not very big. It's like 10 inches by 10 inches and like 6 inches high. And he made this map of the Rockies of where it could be, and he wrote this poem that supposedly leads you straight to it. Well, he ended up getting better. He ended up like beating cancer, and he's still alive. He's like 90 years old now, but nobody has found this treasure chest.
Right.
And
he can go back and get it.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty convinced I know the general area of where it's at. I just gotta find it. Right. But yeah, it was fun just going out there and wandering around. I haven't done anything like that in a while. Y'all should check it out. It's actually a really bizarre thing. His name's Forrest Finn, and it's a totally real thing. Guy's still alive. It's like it's pretty wild.
Did you go alone, or did you go with a friend?
My wife made me take a friend because she didn't want me to get eaten by a grizzly bear. And it was really crazy because when I was out there looking for it, there was like bear shit and like bear hair and like claw marks all over the trees and stuff. So you're walking through the woods like, oh my God. Ugh. Like
I saw that movie where Leo DiCaprio got attacked by a bear.
Yeah.
None of that for me.
Yeah, I had a huge can of bear mace and a machete and a knife. It's pretty ridiculous, but yeah, it was a fun time.
Wow. Did you camp out?
No, I got a hotel that was probably about 20 miles out from where I thought it was, or think it is. I'm gonna go back. I'm going back like next week, I think. I'm pretty convinced.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, self-isolating, right?
It's also-
Really social distancing.
Yeah, it's also pretty cool because it's sort of like the last American treasure like thing. You know what I mean? It's this guy wanted his he was like, why can't I live forever? I'm about to die. Here's a poem. Go find my treasure,
Right. The next time you go out, you're going to see me and Stuart in bear costumes hanging out.
I was about to say, I'm thinking about hopping in my truck and going.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the Rocky Mountains are real big, and I haven't given you any clues yet. So.
Okay, be like that.
I'm just going to head through Alabama. I know it's somewhere after that.
Right.
Yeah, the Alabama Rockies.
Yeah, those are the ones. Right. Guys, I hate to say it, but I got to roll off here too. Kyle, I'm glad I got to see you for a moment.
Yeah, man. Sorry, I missed the whole thing. I wish I could have been here the whole time.
I'm glad you dropped in when you did. But David, good seeing you, man.
Good to see you, John. Jay, I'll see you around town maybe.
I'm
one
sure.
day.
Yeah. Socially distancing.
Talk soon. Yeah. I'll see you guys.
Take care,
All right,
Dave.
David.
Thanks, David.
Seeing you.
Yay. Awesome. So what else is going on, Patterson? Oh, Patterson, somebody from Facebook reached out, has a question about when do you think the new record will come out?
I don't know. We got to make it first.
Yeah.
Our Kevin, who manages us, we're managed by Kevin and Christine. And Kevin was saying the other day he'd love to see us put it out like in November. And I'm like, that's really optimistic. I'd love it, but I don't know what the turnaround, once we cut it, what the turnaround. So I don't know. I think realistically early next year, but you never know. I don't know. I'm free.
Do you think that like touring now, do you think releasing a record is going to coincide very much with an immediate tour supporting it now?
I don't know. We just put out a record that we can't tour behind. So I don't know.
Right.
Part of me thinks, why are we even thinking about putting out another record when we hadn't even toured behind the last one?
Right.
I guess what'll happen is it'll come out when it does. And we're just once we can go on the road, we're going to be on the road playing everything.
Yes.
And everywhere.
Right.
And we may be touring behind 2 new records. And, plus the other, what is it? Our next record will be our 13th studio album. So, we'll be touring behind 13 albums. So I don't know. But
and then if next year's the 25th anniversary,
yep.
The band, you gotta hope that this shit does get sorted out before then, because that's gonna be a big year for you guys. There's a lot of reason to go out and really have like a banner, just have an amazing year of shows.
How many years?
It's also the 20th anniversary of Southern Rock Opera too next year.
Right.
And which, ironically came out on 9/11, and
right.
So I don't know. Once they give us the okay that we can start playing, we're going to be playing a lot, and who knows what'll happen as far as that goes.
Sharon's going through the same thing with the Sunvolt guys, because this is the 25th anniversary of Trace. And they were supposed to do a bunch of 25th anniversary shows, which all got pushed. So, yeah, no, it's a tough, it's a tough spot to have to be in. I had an interesting conversation with a friend of mine who does radio promo or just promotion for records. And he was telling me both sides of the story about, do you release now or do you wait until 2021? And he said on a certain hand, releasing not maybe right now, but in the next few months, there's not a lot of competition and you can really work the records pretty good, especially you guys have like a really good name anyway. So people know, so it's not like breaking a new artist. But he said that they've had some success. I guess, I forget who it is, but someone, the Dua Lipa record, I think that's her name, but they released that like right as the COVID was breaking, but they've done really well with that record because kids still want to hear the music. And even though she's not touring, like they're getting a lot of traction with the record. The record apparently is doing great. So it's interesting because I I gave advice to a friend of mine who's like, a baby artist and just young. And I said, just wait until you can actually do shows. But, there are other people out there saying, no, release the stuff now and work it as hard.
People are hungry. I mean, people are stuck. They're at home. They're bored. They're hungry. They want something new to hear. We went through all that with Jerry's record too, because when it was supposed to come out in June, and he was really bummed to be pushing it back at all, because it had already been so long that we've been trying to get it out and everything. And at the time I was arguing to keep pushing. It's like, just sit on it till next year, sit on it till this is over. And I kind of got outvoted on that, and I'm glad I did, honestly, because I think it's good that it's going to finally come out. I think that maybe for someone where Jerry is career-wise, it might really help. It might really help the record get more attention. Right. And he's putting together all these kind of video things for it that are pretty amazing. And he's got some different people working on doing videos for different songs, and they're kind of political and topical, and well, they're very political and topical, and it's amazing stuff. And so I think it's going to work out good for him, I hope, and more than anything, I just want to see that record get a chance to really shine, because I think it is a very special record.
Right.
Have y'all seen, I'm sure y'all have seen this, but I've seen people doing one-off kind of versions of this, but I think it would be really rad and fairly safe, I would assume, to do almost like a drive-in, tour where you have like certain, you'd have to find the land to do it on and the budget, to make it happen. And it certainly probably wouldn't sound the best, but that could be a pretty grassrootsy kind of cool thing to do, is like a drive-in show, in city to city sort of tour.
I've heard people talking about that it seems like that would be a solution for now. I just think everybody's, people are going to, like I said, I was discussing, 100 years ago with the Spanish flu, that was 1918. And then, we have, basically the next decade, you have the Roaring 20s. And I'm not so sure that's not a response from, people being locked up and, people just, so I feel like once there's a fucking vaccine, cross my fingers ASAP, as soon as possible, I feel like people are just going to bust out. People are really going to be tired of just not being able to.
Oh, yeah.
I hate to say it. I've got the cut sign. Our hour and a half.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks for doing it. No, I was so glad when I texted you on Monday and you said you were into it. It was, I knew it would be great, but it was great seeing you. Obviously, you guys played Jersey City the night of our anniversary 3 years ago. That was a great fucking night. But thank you, Patterson, for putting it together. Jay, always great seeing you.
Yeah, great seeing you.
You're a fan. And Kyle, great meeting you. That the story is fantastic.
Thank you. Hopefully we can hang out in person sometime in the future.
Well, I've been to Portland once working, and I loved it. So I would definitely go back there in a show.
Oh, please come back. Please come back. Yeah. We'll put you up even. Just come stay with us.
You got to keep that guy Larry Crane away from me. He's kind of a pain in the neck. I'm kidding. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great night. Stay safe and keep the dream alive.
Yes.
Bye, guys.